Huh. Sorry, could not load. And there it is. Hey, great. Maybe we're live. Let's check our signal, see if it's true. What's up going on, folks? What's up going on? We'll see if we're live or not. And then we're going to do some quick social media posts, and then we're going to get to work. So looks like I'm here. Then we're going to get to work. So looks like I'm here. Then we're going to get to work. So all right, that seems to be okay. Let me put that in place there. Volume seems low today. I don't know what happened that would cause that. It seems off, but we'll get by. So almost done with my social postings. My name is Phil Kearney. What's up? Hey, I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And we're creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the Eberron campaign setting. We're making an adventure called Crystals of Mabar. It's for 7th and 8th level characters, fighting necromancers, demons, and undead in the Carnwood of Corvair, the Carnwood in Carnath on the continent of Corvair. There you go. And let me fix my screen here real quick, and then we'll get some work done. Clack. There we go. All right, great. So if you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications of when we're live in the future. And here's a bunch of books I've made on the DMsGuild already. They're all 100% free preview. Check them out if you think if you're a D&D enthusiast and you think that stuff's cool. Consider picking up something to support more shenanigans. Here's some of my social media feed stuff. Check that out. And this book cover we made around episode 40. We're currently at episode 515. And this is the cover that we're working, or this is the painting that we're working on right now. It's the Atur Academy in the city of Atur in Carnath. It's the premier studies. It's the capital studies of necromancy in Eberron. So there's no official illustrations for it in the books, I guess. And this was a map that was created a couple years ago by a creator named Casastereo, Cassastereo, or on Instagram it's Casastereo89. So this is a really great map, and it provides color references that we can use for creating our illustration. So thanks for having posted this for us to swipe colors from. Here's some lighting that we grabbed for the overcast weather. And good morning, Rel. How you doing? Let's see. Here's our text, and yeah, we're working on a composition. So I like the general vibe of where this is at. I think it needs it's kind of standalone-ish, a little more than I think that I want. So I'm going to look at the map here real quick and look to develop. It's afternoon. Hey, right on. That's right. You're in Europe, right? Here's some crags, and well, this seems to be downhill into water down below, like a lake or something. It looks like those are boats that are dotting along there for fishing. So I guess you'd come down out of the city here. Here's out of the walls communities. It looks like they'd come down here, down this path, down into the ravines here where this lake is collecting. I like this. This is really cool. Let's see. Let's grab this as a color and see what we can do with that. No, it was reading as mildly green, which is not how I know any stone to be. So I don't think it's a valid. I want to put some rocks in the background, like some mountain type activity. So I guess we're gonna go fishing for. Let's go with mountain crags. That's a word that pops to mind. And let's see if there's a rock that fits the color that I want. Or, you know, like the crag hike near Colorado Springs. I've been to Colorado Springs. It's pretty there. Is this ooh. Crags, go hike Colorado. I like that. I think that's a good looking picture. So let's copy that. Clear my throat a little bit in your ear. Don't mind me. The worst. Scroll up here. Nope. Yeah. In there. And good. And let's take that picture and pull it up here. I'm going to get the text out of the way for the time being. And what's going on? Let me fix my screen like that so I can read text. I'm Aladdin. Oh, okay, great. There's my pen. Have pen, we'll paint. Let's check out these mountains. Kind of pixely, but it's got the blue vibe, so I think we can go with, let's try this as a base color and see how that sits. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Let's see, references, drop away, sky. We'll go mountains. The perspective that we have, I don't want the mountains like tall, like higher than Atur Academy. I want them sort of breaking the break. Oh yeah, that's pretty good for that height. I want them here breaking this frame. I know that on the map of Eberron to the east, which is the direction that we're decidedly pointing in this illustration, there is a significant, I can't remember the name of the mountains offhand, but there's mountains off to the east of Atur in Karnath, so this is fairly accurate. I can take this and drop it down here. And let's take this and go across the way. Fill this in here like that. So I gotta breach it somewhere. I'm gonna drop. There we go. Here, and let's make some cragginess going on in here. Hey, Fernando. It's good to see you, man. So let's start off with dropping in some mountainous terrain here. I'm going to chop off the bottom of it. Bring these elements back in. Yeah, I think that's not horrible. Maybe if we slide it offline a little bit more, that'll feel better. Kind of like that. Yeah, looks like we're gonna do some mountains today. What is this, Thursday? I'm playing Shadow Dark tonight on Wally DM's YouTube channel. We're going to have our DM is Fred Wheeler from How to RPG, and his channel used to be called How to D&D, but he fell in love with Shadow Dark, so he switched the channel to How to RPG. Bold branding strategy. I'm on board with it. Great fun. AJ Pickett. I think we're gonna have some other people hanging out with us as well. I'll be doing that at 5 o'clock Seattle time, which is 10 and a half hours from now. I'll be playing Shadow Dark for a couple hours, and then from there I'll be jumping back on stream here for my Thursday night design to finish up the bastions for the Strixhaven dormitory bastions, and then probably update the Eldritch Knight, Arcane Trickster, and Warlock for the Martial Powers playtesting. I had some revelations about that. I think it's going to be fun to share, and that'll probably finish off our day. But if not, then we can start getting into Piety. And then next week on Monday, should be working on, because we'll have lunch tomorrow. So tomorrow, design lunch, will definitely be into Piety. And I suspect that'll be finished on Monday. And then after that, all our playtest, all the playtesting stuff is pretty much updated. So we'll then be able to mess around with Strixhaven Mage Tower PvP combat style sports for playing Mage Tower, which is basically a cross between Quidditch and rugby for Harry Potter and European enthusiasts. That was the wrong Yeah, that's on the edge. Oh, recovering, huh? Good. Yeah, I think that's good placement. We'll do that. I got sick over the weekend too. Didn't hit flu level, but it knocked me down for a day. I was all froggy on Monday. Sick is no joke, man. Let's work on fading this in a little bit. Obviously, the text is like way out here, so most of this is going to be visible. But I want to really extend beyond the border of the frame that we would have with the text here. I'm not convinced about the frame here. I'm feeling like either I can extend or like add some more text here to completing the adventure, to drop down the top here, so that we have this space here, which is basically the same space I'm using, but just smaller. Which means that painting it bigger is good, because it'll be able to shrink down well for hyperextending the borders. Other option is to reduce the amount of text in continuing the campaign, in which case we would have a frame that's more like this, which is a lot taller than where we're at right now. So I think I'm more inclined to add in some text to concluding the adventure. This is one of the alternate plot hooks where Atur Academy hires your characters to recover a stolen artifact that's been taken to the Carnwood to be used in a ritual that Atur Academy had documents for on how to create a manifest zone, and their archives got raided and it was stolen. The artifact, as well as the ritual, the formula and processes for the ritual that could be used with the artifact to create a manifest zone. So Atur's like, yeah, we need someone to go and recover that. So the default plot hook for this adventure is you're deputized by the county sheriff to go investigate reports of missing people from basically refugees and veteran soldiers that are retired after the war ends, basically going off into the wilderness and settling new area to make more, to become farmers. And Karnath needs more people after the war is ending, so they're kind of blind-eyeing anybody that wants to settle here and make food. Currently, Karnath's totally cool with it. As long as you don't cause trouble and you produce, then welcome to Karnath. So when these little pocket villages are like, yeah, people are missing, the cops are kind of like, people up and leave all the time, especially if things aren't going well. So it's probably not actually, like, no, it's an issue. Fine, we'll send somebody. And you're the somebody that they sent. Like, that's the default. And you show up and you ask questions around the village, or you find the village has been killed by a bunch of undead. You're like, okay, well, there's obviously a problem here. And then you track it back to the manifest zone, where the necromancers are using the Eye of Mabar to create a manifest zone, which is causing these unmarked graves to animate dead, rise from the earth, and then sally forth into the wilderness to kill anything that they find. Your villagers being the first ones that they find. So that's your default. But there's 5 alternate plot hooks. So there's a total of 6 plot hooks that can be used in this adventure. And if you really wanted to, you could just, if it's like a one-shot, or you're just doing like a standalone as a professional DM offering somebody something to play in Eberron, 7th and 8th level is a good tier of power to be able to get a feel for how D&D works. So you typically have, most classes have 2 subclass features at that point, so you're able to evolve a single class character pretty well by 8th level. So you can just throw a 6-sided die to decide which plot hook are your character's gonna, is the character's gonna be led into this adventure, and have fun. or you can take the 6 plot hooks and mix and match them to create different combinations based on, like, if it's part of an ongoing campaign. That's why we have these paragraphs about continuing the campaign in each of the plot hooks. It's like, if you think this is fun and you wanted to add this to an ongoing campaign, here's how you can integrate that and make it a thing. And you know what? Honestly, I think I should have these going this way. And it sounds like my epidemic music has stopped again. It's pissing me off. So, like, you could use both the Atur Academy and the Sheriff plot hook at the same time. So Atur Academy has reports of a missing artifact. The Fort Bastion is overwhelmed with halflings in the Talenta Plains and cries of, you know, like, there's a lot of civil unrest because there's so many displaced soldiers that are trying to settle in. So, like, why don't we're gonna deputize you and you go look for this thing that's missing, and your job is to bring it back to Atur Academy. And each plot hook provides you with different resources and different rewards and different tiers of success in the adventure. And so if you're blending both of them together, you could get rewards from both Atur Academy and the deputy plot hook, and you get the benefits from both the Atur Academy plot hook and the Sheriff's plot hook. Like the Atur Academy plot hook, there's interns that are missing that they're pretty sure left or were kidnapped by the thieves to go into the Carnwood. So they have basically a dossier of the missing interns from Atur Academy for your team to identify, and their primary concern is recovering the artifact, but they also want to be able to prosecute whoever stole it. So they provide you with basically an illusion image crystal that you can use as a magic act, as a utilizer, well, it's a magic action because it's a magic item. But whatever you're looking at, you can click and it takes a picture. And the crystal can hold up to 20 images, and currently it's got 6 images on the roster already of the missing interns from their records with Atur Academy. So there's little images of all the missing interns who you'll find in the adventure, and they're either there because they want to work with the necromancers, or they were convinced this was some sort of extra credit thing and they feel like they were hoodwinked, or they're like, this is, I don't know what's going on, this is crazy, I want out, and they try to escape and you find them. So you've got different attitudes amongst these interns that you can find, and they want you to collect evidence. So as you go through the adventure, you can snap pictures to, you know, accumulate evidence of, like, here's what's going on. You can use this to prosecute. And then in the deputy plot hook, you get badges. You're deputized. You're, like, officially deputized. So you have the authority to go where you want and ask what you want of whoever you find there, which can either create combat scenarios if you come in bold and strong and shoot first, ask questions later. You can make enemies of everybody that's in the adventure and fight your way through it, or if you approach it a little bit more methodically and utilize those tools that were given to you, like the mercenaries that were hired by the necromancers to basically create a front and a buffer of plausibility for what's going on, so that people don't question too much, so they can keep on keeping on. And these mercenaries are like, there's bad things that are happening. I don't know exactly what's happening here, but these undead are, like, out of fucking control. So obviously something is wrong, and if you actually show up as law authorities and don't be a dick, they'll be like, we're really glad there's authorities here. We want to get out of your way so you can find out what's going on. But don't mention us, because we don't want to build a reputation of, you know, betraying our bosses. Whoever our client is, we don't want that reputation, but we also don't want to get in the way of law enforcement. So they offer some plausible deniability options for you to be able to poke around without them necessarily having to just get in. But if your team is really, really good at influencing them, they'll be friendly to you. It's like, yeah, let's walk you right into the place. Let's just get out of your way. And then you can, and then if it's too easy, you can escalate the type of creatures that are coming from the manifest zone to prevent you from stopping the process. So you can either escalate tension with the mercenaries. If you come in hot and rough, they'll treat you rough and not give a shit, because they could be evil or they could be good, and you don't need to know which one it is until the team makes a decision on how they want to treat them, and then they can just the adventure will just lean into, okay, well, we're not going to tell you you're wrong, so if you want to be a dick to these guys, they're going to be a dick back to you, so that you can kill them and have combat with these mercenaries, these trained soldiers that know how to work as a squad to repel invaders. Yeah, you go ahead and do that. So, or, you know, if you're looking for allies and you're only looking to kill the things that you want to kill, especially if it's part of an ongoing campaign. If it's a one-shot, run and gun without any guilt is a good way to go. But if it's part of an ongoing campaign where you're building relationships, maybe you have a geopolitical aspect to your game that you want to lean into, then not shooting first, if that's the approach that your characters take, the adventure will reward you with that by making it easier for you to get further in to the point where you're like, oh yeah, well this shit's got to go, and then you can, you know, be indiscriminately killing things once you get to that point. So but you can also Scooby-Doo your way through it, like if you're there to rescue missing villagers, it turns out that they are missing and they've been kidnapped for this horrible ritual. Let's get them out before something horrible happens and collect evidence, and then circle back around and see what we can do to stop it. There's enough of a timeline involved with the ritual to allow you to do that. So you can get the refugees, you can get the villagers out and safe, and then circle back around and potentially negotiate a surrender. There's options for that, like the Emerald Claw cultists that are performing the ritual. There are terms and conditions that you can modify the influence die rolls to be able to get them to surrender with you without a fight. But the less authority you have, the more of an authority figure you are with the government, the less likely they are to help you. So if you're coming from Atur Academy, they may be like, you know, we're doing this research thing and they were never going to let us, but if you let us complete this, we'll happily provide you with our notes. And it's like, that's not what we were hired to do. We were hired to recover this. But they're like, well, what if we give you stupid amounts of money and the research notes for yourself? And depending on who your team is like, you're like, well, okay, well, maybe we'll let the manifest thing go through, and when you're done with it, we'll take the eye back to Atur Academy and call everything even Steven. You know, they're just trying to trick you. so they can complete their evil ritual and assume that the denizens of a bar will kill you, so it's just a bluff. But it's, you know, it's an evil thing. It's a ploy of desperation to try to get your characters from getting violent, ratting them out. So there's a lot of fun ways to play it. So that's what's going on this page. That's why we're illustrating Atur Academy, because this is in the plot hook section. Like, if Atur Academy is part of your plot hook, you know, here's an illustration of Atur Academy for reference. And on the prior pages, it gives you your rewards and the resources that they give you, and there's different points in the adventure that are like prepared. They're prepared encounters. Like, once you get to this point, this happens. Depending on what your plot hook is, when you get to that point, it'll be different depending on which plot hook you used, which you could just grab and bin. Like, there's preset encounters if you're deputized, but like if you like what's going on with the gatekeeper plot hook of destroying the manifest zone and killing everyone that's involved with it, you could take one of the prepared encounters from the gatekeeper's plot hook, so that your characters can get access to the resources that the gatekeepers provided to their mercenaries that you could just find dead in the adventure. It's like, oh, we'll loot this corpse. It looks like it fell to foul play. What's this stone that they have? They have a piece of biashk that's enchanted to draw you towards the center of the manifest zone, so you can find the nexus where the artifact would be at. They don't know there's an artifact. They just know that there's a manifest zone being created in Karnath that isn't natural, and the gatekeepers are all about dealing with extra dimensional threats and basically policing manifest zones. So when something pops up on their diviner's radar, this is unnatural. Deal with it before it becomes a problem. Your team is activated, and you're given you're basically used with a massive level tree stride ritual to basically plane shift your characters into the manifest zone. And then you've got this crystal that they give you that will guide you to the center of the manifest zone. So all you gotta do is just basically follow the pull, and it'll take you there. And on top of the crystal is a gate seal. So when you get to the nexus, all you have to do is just make an attack roll, and just basically you can't miss. You just throw it at the nexus, and it will expand into a 10 by 10 2-ton block of stone that will basically kill the manifest zone and anyone in this magic circle that's performing the ritual in the process. So it's real easy to one-shot the necromancers that are performing the ritual when you get to the nexus. The issue is that everything is going to be hostile to you because you're coming in gun blazing. You don't have a badge, you don't have any authority, you shouldn't be there. Like, Karnath would not be happy about you showing up and being there. So everything's going to be hostile against you. And you're teleported blind into a manifest zone full of undead that are awakening and attacking in Grim. So it's like, okay, let's pull out some knives and start stabbing shit. So it's a run and gun. I like the base of these mountains. Let's as usual, get into our lighting. So we've got some. That's sunlight that's hitting that. That's not necessarily what's appropriate for a stormy sky, but I do like contrast. So I'm gonna grab it. Let's see. Yeah, let's just grab that and see how it works. So we're looking to the east, and if we're having the mountain, if we're going to show the light, and then that means that it's sunset, which means the sun is to the west, which would be facing forward towards the camera because west is to our back and we're looking to the east. So yeah, that works out. We can do that. We're going to grab our mountain chisel. Again, these all these tools that we're using here on stream. Here's the brush set. It's on my Patreon channel. If you just follow me on Patreon, you can download the ABR file. No cost. Just it's a celebration. It's just a thank you. It's a thank you I decided to make for exceeding 500 subscribers. So thanks a lot for folks that are interested in the shit that we're doing here. Looks like we're doing okay. Running it here. Good. Let's see. So let me crisp this up a little bit. It's a little rough. You want the top edge of the mountains to be crisp and fade as you drop down in elevation towards the base of the mountain where there's more dirt, grit, dust in the air. Atmospheric disturbance. You can blend into the canvas. There we go. Okay, cool. So let's go with that. And okay. Same as the last painting that we did. We're just going to work with the contours, the mountains, work our way down. And I can fade the eraser on this, but just having some, just wherever it wants to go, just letting it do. Hey, what's up? What kind of party wouldn't want to ally with the mercenaries and form some alliance? It's, you know, if some teams don't want to bother, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? The point is that if the adventure is the adventure leans towards you working out something with the mercenaries, and depend. See, the problem is that there's familiars that will spy on the mercenaries. So if they look like they're helping the authorities, then the necromancers, it's the fucking Emerald Claw. They've got, it's a massive, it's a religious sect with that's basically now considered a terrorist organization, and they have multiple cells, and most of them are ex-military intelligence. So they're war criminals, and the last thing, the mercenary group was is comprised of soldiers that were decommissioned at the end of the war. So they're coming from a stance of, we're ex-military, we need work, let's do adventuring stuff, and they don't necessarily know who's a war criminal, who isn't, who their actual backer is. So when somebody approaches them, it's like, yeah, I'm ex-military, we're doing this thing, we need some muscle, and we need somebody to help make sure that citizens aren't hurt while we're working on this situation. That sounds like a pretty good, that sounds like a decent gig up front. So they're gonna get hooked in, but they're like, wait a second, this is beyond, this is what we didn't expect this is beyond our, this doesn't feel right. You know, something obviously evil and wrong is happening here, and we don't want to be on the wrong side of history here. So it makes it really easy for your team to be able to work with them, but at the same time, they're like, you know, if we just flat out betray these dudes, we're painting a target on our back, and we don't want to survive undead just to get killed by necromancers later. So we need plausible deniability. That, I mean, we want you to do what you want to do, but we also don't want to get a reputation of basically churning on our clients, because we don't know, you know, let's be honest, it's kind of rough and tumble out here. So depending on your team's attitude and how well, and like how many mercenaries they've killed before they decide to start actually communicating with them, and how aggressive are they at investigating, the mercenaries will either feel comfortable or threatened by their presence. And then it's a matter of, you know, how much control do they feel that the team has over the situation, versus these guys are just going to get killed, and that's going to leave a bunch of our men stranded here in the manifest zone with these necromancers, and this is getting really ugly. So they can offer you, it's like, yeah, you can investigate this, but I gotta be honest, if we catch you, we're gonna have to report it to our bosses for us to maintain our liability shield. Even though you say you're law enforcement, but what if you come in and you don't present the badges, and you have the wrong attitude, and then when you finally do present the badges, they're like, well, why didn't you present those right away? Well, because we're horrible people. It's like, well, now we don't feel safe around you. So I mean, there's different ways that you can come at it. But yeah, I agree. It's if your characters have authority, but what if your characters don't have a badge? Because 5 of the plot hooks don't give you a badge. You just show up as concerned citizens, and then their attitude could be anything towards you, especially if you're killing them. It's like, what, some rogue adventuring party shows up and starts killing my men? I've got a responsibility to my men to shut you down, and it doesn't look like you have any authority to be here in the first place. So how do I know you're not just here to kill things? Get out. And then players aren't going to like that, so they're going to escalate. So it's very easy, unless the characters have the badge by default. These mercenaries could go sideways on them, but the default plot hook is that you have authority to be there, and as long as you play your cards right, the mercenaries will either help you or just stay out of the way. But if if a DM is reading the adventure first the way that they should, they'll get through the appendix. It's like, oh, there's a lot of ways I can play with this, and then you can approach it from whatever angle is most appropriate to you. If you're running a one shot as like a paid DM doing a thing, then you can just roll the d6, and there's only a 1 in 6 chance that the mercenaries will actually accept that you have authority here. And the rest of the scenarios, you don't. So there's a lot of, there's different, like that. There's different ways that it could be played. And we did what we could in the adventure to provide as much guidance without having to completely hold your hand. We just presented like, here's the likely situation that's going to happen when your team enter this area. And if there's variables that could be changed depending on what plot hook you're using, we make mention of it in the notes here. There's another adventure that I would enjoy doing in Eberron. That's kind of the same, where it has multiple plot hooks. It's hold on. There. A monk's temple at the top of a inert volcano in the glaciers of the frozen sea. I think it's called like the Ice Spire Sea, something like that. Anyway, in the northern Arctic Circle of Eberron, there's glaciers and like crab fishing, and so there's crab fishing community up there that, you know, they're all boaters and stuff like that. And there's this frozen volcano, and there's a monk's temple at the top of the volcano, and their whole deal is that the temple is there to keep the fire demons in the volcano from awakening. And the adventure that takes place is a rival monk's temple is attacking that monk's that guardian temple. They're attacking them to free the fire elementals as basically elemental patrons of like a fire magic temple, right? Like, it's the Fire Nation wants to free a volcano from the Water Nation freezing it out. That's, I guess, a way of putting it. But, you know, it's Karnath. So it's actually in like the northern circle, just north of Karnath, like maybe 500 miles north of where this adventure takes place. And so you can approach it from a number of different perspectives. The default plot hook that we used when we ran the adventure was that the players were friendly with the monks in the temple, and they had been invited to attend some ritual ceremony stuff that they were doing, and you know, to welcome them as kindred warriors, and to build an alliance between the factions of the characters and that temple, so they can network their resources together. And when they get into town, that's when the Fire Nation attacked. So while you're in the fishing community at the bottom of the volcano, and yet to waiting for your friend to show up so that you can go climb up there together. When you get into town, there's this rogue, these evil monks that are running around killing law enforcement and basically disabling communication, so that the town is isolated and cut off while they go and raid the temple, so that they'll have time to finish the raid and get away before anyone closes any leash on them. So your team becomes aware of that, and then it's a race to the top of the mountain before the rival temple escapes down the mountain. And if there's a couple different ways you can get to the top of the mountain. There's a slow path along the set route that snakes up the side of the mountain, like with these like pagodas and this like wall of China sort of thing that goes up the top to the top of the volcano where the temple is at. Or there's a secret passage inside the volcano that if you go around, it'll cut your time in half to get up there. And then there's also an artificer in town that's been trying to repair an airship so that they can expand their ability to trade, and he thinks he has it up and running, but he doesn't have enough magical power to be able to fire it up. So if your team stumbles across the artificer and work with him, You can dump mana or spell slots into the engine that he's got up and running to be able to power it enough, even though it doesn't have an elemental. You can dump enough magic energy into it to make it work for one flight that'll get you up to the top of the mountain immediately. But depending on how you guys steer the thing, you may or may not have surprise. And if you don't have surprise, you don't want to just ram it into the temple, because then you'll be ruining the fucking temple you're there to protect. But if you have to, you could. So there's different plot hooks that we can use in that like you were hired to go steal artifacts from this frozen temple. And when you show up, it's already being raided. So now you're fighting not only the people that are supposed to be at the temple protecting it, but now you're also fighting the rival gang that's trying to rob the place at the same time. You could also instead be members of the rival sect that shows up. Instead of being a third party that's raiding it, you could be the you could be hired to go steal the things that the rival, instead of sending in a rival squad of monks to go rob the place, you're that squad of monks. So there's a couple different ways to play it, and I think there's some other plot hooks, but I'm not. It's been a while since I've looked at it, so I don't recall offhand. But like kind of in the same style as doing this adventure, we'd be able to present. We'd be able to set up that scenario and look at it from different angles. Like if you're hired to go rob the place, regardless of who your employer is, like they can tell you about the secret passage inside the mountain that'll get you up there quickly. If you're just using the default plot hook of having been invited there, you don't know about the fast travel secret entrance unless your characters find it. But if you do find it, there's like Yetis and Remoraz and stuff like that are going to fight you inside the volcano that's mostly dormant. But then you're going to find like gate seals and stuff that are keeping the magic suppressed, that if you break them, you can create an interesting distraction because the volcano is awakening, and that's going to freak out the monks and the community around you. So in the chaos, you can steal what you need and get away. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. But this is the first published adventure that I've created, basically from my imagination, with the help of Andy, the old goat Healy, and Stuart Braz, my editor. But since this is the first adventure that I've ever actually published, I'm liking this sort of like what's that concept, like Jacqueline, your dungeon, of where you have loops and different ways of being able to get to different points inside the physical map, so that you have an interesting arena for you to have encounters inside of. Similarly, I like weaving plot lines like that, where there's different ways, like having the awareness that your team could completely botch this conversation, and if you require them to do a certain thing and the plot doesn't work, that's called railroading, where you have to get a specific result for your story to happen. And as a DM, as a player, I hate that shit. I want to be able to fuck up the way that I fuck up and have consequences cascade from that, because that's one of the fun things about role-playing games, is that you can have consequences to stupid actions and it doesn't ruin your fucking life, right? It's a game. You can make dumb decisions and live out the consequences through your characters and your campaign. It's like, well, treating people that way didn't work, like there's a subtle lesson there. And that's the style of game that I like to play. So as a DM, that's the type of style of game I like to run. So if I'm going to publish something and I'm putting you into this scenario with people that have motives and goals, what happens if your goals and motives align with theirs? Or what happens if you end up not liking the protagonist at all, and what they want to do like completely just doesn't jive with what your team decides that you want to do? If it's part of an ongoing campaign, you've probably got a pretty good idea what your team's vibe is, and you're going to build something that's going to coincide with the goals that they've already expressed as players at your table. Like, this is what we want to do. Like, cool, let me build things that are going to lean into what you want to do. But if you're coming in raw, or they're just like firing up a new scenario, or it's like a change of chapter and you're opening up new opportunities, then, everything's fair game. It could be anything. And it sounds like my music stopped again. So if I'm publishing adventures, and again, this is only the first adventure that I published. This Frozen Temple idea is another adventure that I want to do. So when I build adventures like this, I want to have different ways for you to interact and engage the content without assumptions of how you want to use it. So anyway, that's something I've been ranting about for the past 10 minutes. What do you think? But I mean, I don't think that one would be nearly as big of a mess as this one is. It's basically got, well, it's got the town, it's got the volcano path upward. There's the inner path upward as a alternate route, and then you've got the airship. So you've got 3 ways to get to the top of the mountain. Either 10 minutes travel time in an airship that's going to crash into the side of the mountain, and depending on how your piloting check goes depends on how far up the mountain you get and how quietly you do it. And then there's the hidden inner path that has a lot of monsters that are in the volcano that are going to want to eat you. And then there's the long path, which is climbing up the mountain that takes twice as long. But there's like yetis, and there's also patrols from the enemy organization that's keeping an eye out from anyone coming up from the village to stop. So you have stealth options there. So there's a lot of different ways that, you know, depending on which path becomes available to you, and then on that path, how are you going to handle the encounters that you find along the way? So a lot of fun stuff there. We can use some like frostbite rules, and I think there's a lot of opportunities for it. So, and I actually ran that as a let's play on a YouTube channel back when I first published the Color Mana Spell Point variant rules. I was invited to talk about the color mana system that I had developed, and the way that channel worked at the time. It's called Babies with Knives. I don't think they're active anymore. But at the time, the way that it ran was, we're going to talk about your thing, and then we're going to have a session where we build characters with your thing to see how it feels. And then the guy that created the creator, like, I'm going to do a one shot. I'm going to DM you on a one shot. And so, like, would you like to do that? I'm like, yeah. Let me make something. And this Frozen Temple idea that I've been talking about was the thing that I came up with. And it was a 6-hour one shot. And some things could have been done better. A lot of it was I made some DM decisions on the fly that ended up being okay. Like sorcery points, I was giving the sorcerer sorcery points back on a short rest. That's not actually how the system works. But I'll admit it, I was nervous, so I bungled the mechanics. So he was getting, there were 6 levels, so he was basically getting 6 mana back every short rest. And the paladin's like, God, everyone's getting a ton of mana but me. I'm like, that's because I fucked up, I'm sorry. But it was cool, you know. He was having fun, so they were all having fun. But there was a small snigget about a trap that went off again on the paladin, who seemed to be getting the short end of the deal, and I felt horrible about that in hindsight. But we dealt with it the best we could, and we came out of it friends. But showing my ass here, don't mind me. But it was cool. So I just built this adventure. I was like, yeah, let's. I like Eberron, and I use color mana in my Eberron setting. So here you go. And none of these guys had ever been in Eberron. Some of them had never played 5e before, and some of them were MTG enthusiasts. Some weren't. So it turned out being a whole lot of fucking fun. Why is my deal in front? There. Seems like the smartest way of what kind of party would Anyway, I'm rambling. Don't mind me. I'm tired. I didn't get great sleep last night, so I'm kind of rambling here. I like how these mountains are coming along, though. Not bad. I'm going to pause and reflect for a second, have some coffee. chase it with some water. 1 part coffee, 2 parts water. Keeps the kidney stones away. I've had 1 kidney stone, but apparently it broke up before it hit my dick. So I found out about it after passing it. A lot of people don't have that luck. A lot of people, it's stuck in there, and that would kill you back in the day because the stone blocks your piss passage. It basically clogs the drain like hair in a sink, and once it clogs, you can't get rid of pee, so you'll eventually burst your internal organs, kill you. But getting kidney stones apparently wasn't very common until we started getting into processed food. But if you happen to get one, back in the day, it's not like they can go in and get it out. What are you gonna do? Take a stick, snake it up in there, and poke at it with your pine needles? Don't think so. What a nightmare. That looks good. Dome in comparison. Foreground. I think I can drop them outline. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Yeah, looks like it's part of the mountains. I like that. I'm going to drop them down a little bit to make them a little less significant. I really like emphasizing the sky on this one for some reason. I'm gonna have to take this whole composition and bring it in. I want, yeah. Taking the text to here, I think is gonna end up being good. All right, let's keep building. We'll, let's keep building. I want to pause for a moment. Open up a new layer. I don't hate that. It's a lighter color than the base, but I like how that looks, so. I think I'm gonna keep that. Soften it. Ooh, that's not good. Get out of the way there, buddy. I like that. It feels really good. That's a good base, and we can build on that. But before I get too far, I want to mess around. I want to mess around with the sky some more. I like how the sky looks, in general. But now that we're starting to get this language in here, let's see, trees. Build the trees up a little bit higher. We're just messing around with the composition right now, so. Ader feels like it's like maybe 50, 60 feet tall, and trees would potentially be taller than that. So I'm gonna mess around with the balance here. Just fill in some color here like that. Just splash it in. This is we're just putting color on the board right now. We're not really too concerned about any accuracy. But having this rise up out of the terrain, that feels cool. That feels really, really cool. Like that looks pretty fucking cool. The dome is a little highlighted right now, so we'll have to ease down the color. I mean, the color will cut over here, will be more shaded. This is incredibly rough, but I'm really digging this composition. This just looks cool. So I wanna fuck with the sky some more to try to mood it up a little bit more, create a little bit more contrast. I like this radiance back here, but the grayscale of the sky and the mountain is very close. But I don't feel like the solution is darkening or lightening the mountain. Leave the mountain like it is. I think that's a good tone. But the sky can be more intense. So if we intensify the sky, we'll intensify the mood. We can de-emphasize. We can just go with texture and patterning on Atur Academy itself to ground that into looking like, you know, architecture and real, that we can pull more mood from the piece by enhancing the contrast and activity in the sky. So that's the idea. So I'm gonna hide the text for now. Like something like this would probably end up being a good composition. Yeah, God, that looks really cool. I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, great. So stop geeking out, Phil, and get to work. Let's go back to our sky. See, there's a lot of contrast in the sky here, a lot more sharp contrast than what we've got going on here right now. So I'm happy with what we have in the sky so far, but we can do more. So let's just do more. We're just fucking around anyway, so. Let's start with something fat and bold like that. Get ourselves up to a really high. Yeah. See, now the mountains can stand out more in the darkness. I tell you what, I keep talking about how Bob's tools, Bob Ross, how his painting tools, he can get a lot more because he's using a physical brush with all these horsehairs in it, and he has texture on the actual canvas. He has a lot of advantages over us in his process of creation. It's easier and more organic for him to be able to create things on the canvas. But I gotta say, from a composition point of view, digital has infinite capability of going back and not necessarily fixing mistakes, because happy accidents is definitely a part of this process, but being able to arrange background layers to build a stronger composition without necessarily knowing what we're doing in advance. Because few people know this, but when Bob would do an episode, he had already painted that same scene at least 3 times. They have a warehouse full of duplicates of practice. Like season 5, episode 12 is like a winter landscape, and he'll have like 7 copies of that winter landscape that he had like perfected to the point where he could reproduce it pretty quickly on camera, so that he could build a 25-minute episode of, here's a painting that took me 6 hours to compose, and after doing it X amount of times over the course of the last week or 2, I can now punch this thing out for you in an episode. Like, the logistics that go into him actually being able to produce that episode required him to basically, like an orchestra practices a song, he practiced that painting. And when he's doing the painting, like he might hit at an angle he didn't expect or something, and that's where his happy accidents come from, because it didn't meet the script of what he wanted. So if you look at all the duplicates, they all have trees at different angles and in different positions, and the sky will look different. Like they're all the same idea with the same color palette, but the actual process, like the actual performance check that he made, ended up having the composition look a little bit different each time. So they're all unique, even though they're the same quote unquote the same painting. So he didn't have to worry about the composition because he had already practiced it multiple times by the time we got to the point where we got to see it on camera. So he wasn't guessing about where anything was. He wasn't just whipping that up out of nowhere. He knew exactly what this painting was going to look like. Well, he knew generally what that painting was going to look like because he had already practiced it. Specifically practiced, the specifics of it was the magic of the show. It was like, we know what we want to do, let's do it. So he never really was struggling with composition design on camera. I always thought he was just making this shit up on the fly. You know, most people do, but in reality, no, this was a very staged performance. It's a performance, like you know, Led Zeppelin. They're gonna play Kashmir again. We know what fucking Kashmir sounds like, but the solo might be a little different. Same idea. So, but I'm doing this as I'm actually doing this on the fly with you guys, but I don't have to worry about getting it right the first time because I can play with layers and change up the background to match what's going to make the foreground look better as we go. I'm not out bobbing Bob in any sense. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the advantage that the digital tools have over the physical medium is that I can do this on the fly and actually get it right the first time because I can keep going back and editing these background layers. And I think that sky looks a hell of a lot cooler now that we've decided to come back and fuck around with it. Hey, what's up? I want to know, okay, how do you roleplay NPCs that are supposed to be wise, holders of great secrets, and hold the answers to life questions? I don't do a lot of first person. You've played in some of my playtests, Rel. You know, I do not speak from first person. I use third person and second person. So when I'm depicting as a DM, when I'm depicting a character, I'm usually like, he says this, he does that. I keep that third person perspective of looking at them as though I'm describing to you what's happening. That makes it really easy for me to do lore dumps. Like I can switch in and out of character as a DM really easily by operating in third person, because at any point I can like drop gear. And it's like, this is what we were like. Like for example, you see a collection of orcs at a barricade in front of a door that's closed. And when you approach them, they start to get aggressive, but they look concerned, and you can hear sounds of battle on the other side. There's one orc that looks like he's in charge, and he's covered in like animal bones and feathers and stuff. He looks like a shaman type character. And he says that they expected someone to arrive that would be able to help them, and your timing is perfect. Obviously, you're here to help. Tell you what, we're running into some trouble in this dungeon, and if you're willing to help us, we would be willing to give you half the gold that we've accumulated so far. Just help us get our people out. And he sounds sincere. They look scared, honestly. You've never seen a scared orc before. But whatever it is that they ran into, they look scared. So what do you want to do about that? Like that's how I'll run a game. I'll describe what it is. I'll give you like a quote of like what they're saying, but I'm not hard committing to their voices, who they are. I keep it separated so that as a like that idea of being an adversarial DM, I actively campaign against that by keeping my perspective from that of the players. If I start presenting myself as an antagonist to the team, if that's the tone that I take with the team, to me that's me not that. I mean, I know I'm just narrating, but from my perspective, the way that I like to play, I like when the DM and the players are working together to create a solution for each other. So if I'm presenting everything from their perspective, it allows me to be like, yeah, you feel like such and such, or you can sense this and that, or like you notice this and that, and I'm not like breaking character at any point to be able to drop in little nuggets of information. So to be a wise character, in my opinion, to be a wise character, like to depict a wise NPC that's like lore dumping at characters or whatever, it just means that I can more easily drop out of character and just feed you information directly as the DM to the players, and not necessarily denote the NPC as seeming particularly wise or like Yoda clever or something like that. But I can dump information to you efficiently. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Is it like my games? Everything's really utilitarian in my games. Like these NPCs are here to either prevent you from progressing or to provide you with information or opportunity, or like to beseech you to help them in some way. So I don't need to go hard into character for you to be able to explore this next environment or to fight these monsters. If I can provide good descriptions and make it vivid for you, then great. I'm doing a good job narrating. But I'm not much of a method actor. I'm not a voice actor. I'm not big into getting into character. That's not important to me. What's important to me is making sure that you have the tactical and the tactical information and the clues that you need to be able to keep moving through the adventure, and for you to feel like you have a choice to make, that you're being empowered to assert what you want to do as characters in the adventure. Is that making sense? Like I would just describe them as like this guy seems to know what he has going on. He's collected. You know what he's talking about. He looks you dead in the eye. There's no wavering, and he's completely convicted in what he's saying. She totally believes what it is that she's saying, and you can feel the weight of those words. And like this is serious business to them. It doesn't necessarily have to be serious business to you, but like this is like to them. This feels like they're taking it really seriously. Like I don't know if that gets the point across or not. Yeah. Like I've talked about before, like I don't care what your character's backstory is. This is the adventure that we're running, and these are going to be the challenges that you're going to face in that adventure. And if you're trying to tell a story about your character's personality, background, development, history, conflicts, or whatever, it's your job to take what's being built into the adventure and see how it progresses your character. Like that's not my job to, like, yeah, I've got this thing with my dad. It's like, well, great. If you see a place where your dad would show up and assert himself into the situation, keep me aware of it as a narrative plot point that you're interested in, like, and portraying. See, I think here. Let me rant for a second. That makes sense. Yeah, it's a game. So so that actually leads into the rant that I wanted to basically snarp on here real quick, is that the attitude that I seem to get from where culture with D&D and table LARPing is at, and by table LARP, live action role playing, like where you're like deep diving into your character, dressing up and stuff like that. People dressing up while sitting at a table to be more in character is what I would call table LARPing. And the attitude seems to be around table LARPing of the players are not only the decision makers, but are the audience, right? But in this instance, we're talking like the players expect the DM to be performing for them, while they're also able to assert their own sense of agency in the game as whoever they're LARPing is. And I don't agree with that perspective. Like, that's not my approach at all. My approach, like I've been saying, my approach is that if you want a story, you're going to inject meaning and value into this game yourself. And you can ask me initially, like, is it okay that blank or X or Y, or like, would it make sense that A, B, or C happens, or like, oh, I've got this thing with my character. Can we like A, B, or C with that? And like, if I can, I'll make it jive. It's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And the more in depth we get with that, you don't need to ask. You can stop asking permission after a while because you just kind of get it. It's like, oh man, it's like, and like what I think is awesome, like in like this like dad like I'm looking for my dad. I've used this example before. You're messing around with bandits, and at some point you are sneaking in to raid the place, and one of the players is like, okay, what do we see? It looks like there's a couple, it looks like there's some bandits over there that are eating at a fire. And then if the player would be like, holy fuck, I think that's my dad. Like, if you were to assert that as a player, I could just completely grab, like, I could then go, like, what kind of if you want to insert your dad here, and I know that's a plot point that's important to you, and I, like, as a DM, I was looking for a way for you to be able to open up a dialogue as a diplomacy situation instead of having necessarily come in and kill these people. It's like, yeah, that's your dad, and it looks like he's telling these guys what's going on. He has some sort of authority in this group. What do you want to do about that? And that opens the door for the player to be like, I want to approach my dad. And it's like, you're just going to come out of the open and just like approach your dad. Just like that. It's like, yeah? It's like, how do you think he's going to react to that? A, B, or C. It's like, okay, great. Well, I'll take A, B, or C, and let's do a roll and see how you hit, because it's a game. So let's gamify it and have you make a roll. And depending on how you roll and which scenario of A, B, and C I think is good or bad, however you play this and whatever you roll, we're going to combine those two things to see how his attitude is towards you. What's your backstory with this guy? Yeah, he abandoned me, for some chick. It's like, okay, well, maybe he doesn't like your family very much, so let's see how this goes. And if you completely botch the roll, he's like, oh, it's you. What do you want? Maybe he won't kill you outright, but he doesn't necessarily have to give a shit about you, and drama ensues. Something like that. I mean, I'm just making shit up on the fly. But I'm like, as a DM, I'm totally cool with you doing that, but I'm not driving that. I'm not driving that train at all, man. It's like, you brought that in, and my narrative as a DM, my improvising this narrative is loose enough that if you introduce this element for you to complete a character arc for yourself and give advantage to your characters and being able to build this into a different type scenario than necessarily having to kill everybody. Awesome, well done. Well, way to take the initiative. You've now sculpted the story, and you are a co-producer with me. So that's just my attitude. But I think it takes either a really seasoned improviser, somebody who's been a role player for a while, someone who's comfortable with depicting personalities, probably somebody who's ran games before, to have that level of comfort of knowing that they can safely drop these things in without completely fucking the DM over by overly asserting something that you want. Is that making sense? Because I'm kind of rambling here, and I don't know if what I say always makes sense. Hey, Ryan. Dude, work's going along great. You are welcome. I'm having fun here. We're having fun, Ryan. Hopefully you are too. I'm a bit of a rant today. I don't do a lot of scripted or recorded topics of conversation that I upload and build a screenshot for the algorithms to feed and like have editing and stuff, like with images dropping in. That I just do all my shit on the fly, off the cuff. Whatever topic of conversation is where I'm driven to talk about, that's what I talk about, and I just share my thoughts about it. So there's some serious limitations to that approach. I could probably have a much bigger audience already if instead of streaming every morning, I like some people like I'm in a number of creator communities, and some YouTubers like, yeah, I'm going to get 120,000 views on it, but it took me 30 hours to make this video. It's like if I had 30 hours, I could probably have 2 more paintings done. Because my whole point of being on stream is to keep my brain active and interacting and engaging, so that I'm motivated, so I can guarantee I get something done every day. So I keep pushing the pixels, because if I wasn't on screen like this, I may have decided to sleep in this morning, and then who knows what's going to happen at work and in the evening, and before you know it, I just lost a whole day and I didn't get any goddamn thing done. So streaming like this in the morning guarantees that I'm building momentum, that I'm showing up every day. It's accountability. I'm holding myself accountable to what will eventually be Kickstarter backers. Maybe by 2030, I start doing Kickstarter projects, and by then I have a large enough audience of people that are on board with like how I do things and are on board with showing up and kicking around with me. That if I do a Kickstarter that people are interested in, then you'll have the opportunity to jump in here while we're making the Kickstarter stuff, to be involved. You know, that's so I want to. This is the format that I want for my channel, and it's just a matter of it doesn't build very quickly, because this is not how. You know, there's no assigned topic of conversation that we're talking about today. It's just whatever happens. That's what's going to go on. So it's really slow to build subscribers, because it's not like, oh, Phil's talking about running a mega dungeon today. It's like, I don't know if I'm going to talk about running a mega dungeon today or not. I am going to paint something, and I'm going to talk about shit to keep my brain occupied, so that I don't have to think about what I'm painting, so that I paint it and not get in the way of myself. Like, I'm talking specifically so I can distract my brain enough so that I won't question what's supposed to be on the canvas. And at the end of that process, I'm kind of watching this thing be created at the same time as you are. It's just, to me, it's just kind of appearing on the page alongside what you're seeing. So there's a real sense of magic to that for me, and that's really part of what I need to be able to you know, the magic of the painting that I get to do is kind of fueled by that. I do stuff off screen that's like very meticulous and grindy and like pushing text around and more graphic design layout type of work that's not necessarily very free flowing. And like if I have to sit there and like if I'm working with text, I'm gonna have to read this paragraph like 20 times and keep fucking around with the text to make it fit in the space that I want, and you listening to me say the same sentence over and over again just so that I'm not just silent, like that's not the same level of engagement and quality content that we have going on right now. I'll occasionally do some page layout stuff just so you guys can see it, but if that was the bulk of my channel, you'd be like, fuck off. You know, like the game design stuff that I do on Mondays and Thursday nights and Friday and Tuesday lunches, like that if the stuff that I was doing wasn't more interesting, I don't think I would have any audience at all while I did that stuff. I think the only reason people stick around and check it out is because I approach 5e from a different angle. I am sincere in wanting to take BECME and first edition concepts and integrate them into the 5e game engine. And most people are familiar with the 5e game engine and want to be able to feel what those tools are like without having to learn a completely different game, which is what pisses so many people off about, if you want to do a heist mission, you should play Blades in the Dark. I'm like, no, you should have a flexible game engine that's capable of doing a heist mission, whether you want to play D&D, GURPS, Shadowrun, Werewolf the Apocalypse, or Blades in the Dark. A heist mission's a fucking heist mission. You shouldn't have to learn to play a whole new role-playing game just because you want to fucking rob a bank. You know? But you should be able to switch gears into different types of feel and play. A good role-playing game would be capable of shifting gears into different styles of play. And like, if all you can do with Blades in the Dark is heists, it's actually Blades in the Dark is the weak game system. Because what happens if you want to do a war game? You know? Oh, well, I'm playing Blades in the Dark. I want to do this war game. Well, why aren't you playing 40k, scrub? You should be playing Warhammer 40k if you want to do a war battle. You know, you see how that can be reversed. You can flip the tables around. Anyway, I'm on a rant, but that's my point. You know, I don't know what we're gonna be talking about when we do these, so it's really difficult for me to do. Like when I make a book, I can do prepared episodes of like talking about specific aspects of the book. Like I've got a bunch of Spelljammer stuff that I have published because I'm talking about specific mechanical points. Like this is a thing that I made for this book. Check it out, and here's how it's practically applied in your game. And Bob's your uncle. But that's not, you know, that's not like best 10 terrains to fuck with your ranger or whatever. Anyway, I'm on a rant. YouTube is a hobby in short. Yeah, it is. This is a hobby within a hobby within a hobby. I'm a D&D enthusiast is my main hobby. I don't know, man. Maybe painting's my main hobby. They kind of evolved together. I discovered art the same time that I discovered D&D, and D&D fueled my desire to draw things, especially things that I'm happening and doing in D&D. And it just kept building to the point it's like people were asking me to do things for them, and then I got into commission work because so many people were asking me to do things for them. It's like, I don't have time to do all this, I'm going to charge money. And then some people said, okay. And then it just kind of kept going from there. But in the meantime, I'm still developing my skills as a DM, and I DM'd more and more as I became less content with DMs that some knew what they were doing and were awesome, some had no idea what they were doing and were disappointing. And it's like, this is the kind of game I want to play, but I can't find any DM to run a game that way. So if I'm going to have these type of games, it looks like I have to run them, and I'm going to have to vicariously enjoy this style of game through the players because they're the ones that get to play it. So all the stuff that I design and publish is like, this is the kind of game that I wish was available to me. Since no one else is providing it, I'm going to at least create a format so if there's DMs out there that get this and it jives with them, that at least their players would have the opportunity to enjoy it. And then vicariously, I can enjoy this type of adventure because I can see that it engages and excites the players, and I know what that feels like. So it kind of has that parental approach, you know? Anyway, I digress. And you think this edition has that level of flexibility? Yeah, I do. Absolutely. Case in point, Draw Steel's pretty hip these days. People are excited. The people that are spending money to play test the Draw Steel role-playing game that Matt Colville developed, they have this diplomacy system where there's these different breaking points of like you get into this diplomacy situation of trying to influence the big bad or something, and the whole mechanic around it is you only have so long to try to barter or negotiate with this NPC before they run out of patience with you, right? That's in a quick nutshell. That's how diplomacy encounters work in Draw Steel. And from a 5e perspective, right? So from a 5e perspective, how do you do that? You use an exhaustion mechanic. You only have 6 degrees. Like after 5, you have 5 steps and then you're dead. So from that same perspective, from a diplomacy, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got this block of 6. You start here encountering the NPC, and you've got until you've exhausted the conversation, and there's no more words to be said. The NPC's either going to go along with you, or you're going to have to draw steel. That's basically what it comes down to. So every time your team, if you have, like, say, have a team of 4 players, anyone that wants to participate can do an insight, an intimidation, persuasion, deception. Those are the 4 basic skills that exists inside of D&D to interact with NPCs. And from insight, you can use intelligence or wisdom, and you've got intimidation, deception, and negotiation, which are generally focused on charisma checks, but if you wanted to, could be wisdom or intelligence depending on how you're narrating that skill challenge. So when you make your skill check, you're pitching your point here as your turn, and when you pitch your point, you're going to make your skill check, and you're automatically going to exhaust 1 degree of that conversation. If you fail your die roll, you just gain 2 degrees of exhaustion. And every time in D&D, whenever you gain a degree of exhaustion, it's -2 on your skill checks. So as you go through this conversation, you're having more and more penalties accumulated onto your character. And if you get to the point where you're flushing down the drain here, you've hit exhaustion point, and you got there quicker because you failed. You've got basically 3 strikes and you're out. And if you get to that exhaustion point and it's taking 1, 2, 3, maybe if you get to this breaking point at a -8 at most, like that's the worst it's going to get if you're succeeding. But it's still going to get worse and worse. So it's not just like the bard's just going to cook this because he's got a +16 on his die roll. It's like, well, we're really far down in the conversation at this point, and everyone's sporting a -10 on your die roll because you're exhausting the conversation. Who's on your team that can overcome a -10 penalty and pull this shit out of the fire? The bard, with his +16 bonus. Now your bard, as the face with all the stats that back up your character, can actually overcome the exhaustion of the conversation and hit it from a different perspective, which is all you needed to be able to win over this person to get to where you need to be. Does that make sense? That's 5e game engine as an ability check that's utilizing the exhaustion mechanics in a social situation where you're using draw steal style of exhausting the conversation because you've got anywhere from 3 to 6 strikes. Like maybe you've got like 3 shots, and depending on where your team is at, if you failed all 3 die rolls, you've completely exhausted the conversation and there is nowhere to go. After 3 ability checks, you've gotten this far down the exhaustion path, and on a scale of 1 to 5 of still being alive, where are you at on that scale? And that will determine how willing or unwilling they are to work with you. But you're continuing to fatigue your ability to influence them. You can come in hot and fast and hit good, but if you fuck up, you drop 2 rungs automatically, and everyone else is going to be at a -4 at that point. And that can spiral, that creates a death spiral of you failing your ability checks, which is what you want to end the conversation so you can get back to combat, which is what draw steal is really all about. You see how that works? Yeah. 5e has so many game mechanics and so many types of subsystems inside of it that you can grab any particular piece of the game engine and change the narrative so it operates in a different pillar of adventure. That would be taking the social pillar and gamifying it as an exploration fatigue system. People are like, there's not a lot of fatigue stuff to do for the ranger. It's a weak system, and generally I would agree. But if you don't have like exhaustion, if you're not utilizing exhaustion, if you're not using starvation, if you're not using dehydration, that was the risk of exploration, is you're pushing yourself out into the void with limited resources. And if your game system is allowing you to press a button and you get all the water and food that you want, and press another button and you get rid of your exhaustion, yeah, there's not much to do with exhaustion. But if you then go look at Lord of the Rings, that's on D&D Beyond, those characters only get to 10th level, and I don't think there's any spellcasters. So you don't have the option of magicking up water and food. You gotta carry that shit with you. If you don't have it, you better hope that the ranger in your party can actually pass a skill check to find food and water, because it's not just being given to you. They can have a class feature that trivializes finding food and water, because if you have a cleric, you just press the button and you like Goodberry. Goodberry says fuck you. You know, you're resolved. And if you don't have a druid, maybe you have a ranger that can press that button, so you don't have to worry about it. So you have to understand what mechanics are you introducing into your game, and what options are you allowing your characters to have to be able to overcome them. So exploration is a big problem in 5e because it's not built to have deep exploration mechanics. It's built to get you from A to B and kill shit on the way. Not worry about, are we lost and are we starving and are we scared? Like that's not what the 5e game engine was built for. So for you to be able to switch gears up and implement it, you need to lean into exhaustion mechanics. Like maybe it's like when you're out in the wilderness, every day of travel that you have, you are going to accumulate a degree of exhaustion no matter what. If you fuck up your die rolls and stuff, then it's going to be 2 degrees of exhaustion, and the ranger can mitigate that to make sure that you don't have more than 1 degree of exhaustion, so that when you take your long rest at night, you remove a degree of exhaustion so you can stay even keel unless something goes bad. And if something goes bad, you now have 2 degrees of exhaustion, which requires 2 days of nothing going wrong for you to get rid of that exhaustion, because you only get rid of 1 degree of exhaustion per day under normal mechanics. So you can use that as a stack against you system, where it's like, well, we've fucked up some die rolls here. We've been fed and we have our drink, but we've incurred 3 degrees of exhaustion. And if we're this exhausted when we get to the dungeon, we're fucked. So we need to lay low for, honestly, we need to camp out here for like 2 days for us to catch up. And while you're there, you now have random encounters that are coming for you because you stopped moving. And you have exhaustion. You have degrees of exhaustion. So if you get hit with random encounters, you're going to be -6 on everything until you can get rid of those 3 degrees of exhaustion. So those random encounters, those random wolves might not have seemed that difficult, but you're currently sporting a -6 on your attack roll. And I think you should, with exhaustion, I think you should reduce your DC. So if you've got 3 degrees of exhaustion, you now have a -3 on your DC, on all your saving throws. So your shit isn't hitting as hard, you're not hitting as often, and the enemies that you're fighting don't have that problem. So a low threat encounter, a random shit in the woods, now becomes a moderate threat. If you run across a moderate threat, it can fucking kill you. Bam! Now your exploration becomes dangerous. Like where you're at and what you've done and how fatigued you are becomes important. That makes sense? Like, there you go. Game engine, right there. 5e game engine, core mechanics. Or, for every mile that you march in the wilderness, you take 1 point of temporary damage. You take one point of fatigue damage. And when you run out of hit points, you gain a degree of exhaustion. So, running around the woods at low levels when you only have like 20 hit points, and every mile that you walk fatigues you by 1 hit point. When you find, are you going to find a random encounter? Because currently you only have 7 fucking hit points. That's really dangerous. Like that's a completely different way to approach it. You can stack the 2 things, like I said, you can stack the 2 things together. When you run out of hit points, you don't die, but you gain a degree of exhaustion. Like I'll give, like it could be like, you can roll a hit die to regain hit points anytime that you want. But if you do, you incur 1 degree of exhaustion. So you can only do that once a day, and you can mitigate the hit point loss that you take from traveling over terrain, but you're going to incur degrees of exhaustion. So do you want to have low hit points when you get into an encounter, or do you want to have a lot of exhaustion when you get into an encounter? One of them, with a long rest, you can get rid of all of them, but now you have less hit dice to be able to wear your way through terrain as you continue to travel. Or you can pick up these degrees of exhaustion, have all your hit points, be less likely to hit, be less likely to land a spell, and have to take more downtime to recover from that exhaustion. Your choice. How do you want to play it? And these are all things that you can fuck around with. But both of those systems are just core 5e, looking at encounters as combat. You see? Does that make sense? 5e is an amazing game engine, because it has this huge cacophony of different types of subsystems inside of it that all are recognized as part of the 5e game engine. We're just reimagining how you want to use them. Like if I knew we were going to have this conversation, I could have scripted that for 15 minutes and put it out there and have 50,000 subscribers. Oh, that Phil, he's amazing. Maybe I'm doing this all wrong. that's just not where we're at yet. But yeah, this is that's how you can run 5e. The idea that 5e isn't an awesome game engine to run any kind of game that you want is just because people don't know they can do that. You didn't know you could do that, right? How many other people don't know they can do that? How many people are shitting on this game engine because they just don't? I don't even think WotC knows you can do that. I don't have. I don't. You know, full discretion. I don't have a lot of confidence in the current team to really know what they're doing. I think what's happening at WotC is they've fired all their old expensive game designers, so they're running out of people that think this way. I think Chris Perkins thinks this way. He's been making adventures for Dungeon Magazine since like '86. I'm pretty sure he thinks this way and tries to find ways to dumb it down for his game system so that the new generation of players can get it. But I like to lean into the idea of if you're playing role-playing games, you're probably smart. And if I can lead you, if I can show you how to fucking fish, you can probably figure out how to fish. Despite how many people on Reddit complain how stupid gamers are. It's like these people don't know how to play the game, they refuse to read the rules. You know, you gotta have, you know, if Moses won't go to the mountain, you gotta bring the mountain to Moses, you know? I don't know if I like any of this. Any of this. I'm ranting here, so I'm just basically, you know, fucking around with clouds and stuff while I'm ranting. I'm losing some of that depth that we had. So what happens? What if I trim this back? Let's trim this back and get back to where we once were. Hey, Steve. Yeah, there's always third-party stuff. It's just a matter of which ones do you like, right? I've got my own crafting rules, right, in the Bastion campaign. Let's add those back in, and I'm going to grab this dark. What exactly is going on here? Oh, my computer locked up. Photoshop is in the process of crashing. What time is it? Oh my god, it's 8:09. I'm fucking late. You guys are supposed to tell me that. Actually, it's not your responsibility to tell me that at all. Oh my god, it's 8:09. I blew over my clock because I've been monologuing. I have to go. So I'm out of here. I'm playing Shadow Dark at 5 o'clock. That's in 9 hours from now. I'll be on Wally DM's channel with AJ Pickett, Fred Willard from How to RPG, and I think we have some other people that are playing with us. We're going to play Shadow Dark for a couple hours, and then I'm going to jump back on here, and we're going to complete the Strixhaven dorm room Bastion stuff, and then we're going to update Warlock, Eldritch Knight, and Arcane Trickster. And if we have time, we'll get into Theros Piety. So that's it for now, guys. I gotta bail. Later, guys.